up, everybody? Welcome back to another Bass and Brews fishing podcast. Today, you will see we ain't doing nothing crazy. No live, not a bunch of hoodlums up in here doing hoodluming stuff. It's just regular old us minus Alex. Alex is gone doing his Coast Guard thing. If you need to really figure out the backstory to that, just go listen to the last 2 hour and something hour episode that we did live for his send-off. It was great. At times, it sounded like a send-off. At times, it sounded like he was on his deathbed and not going to wake up in the morning. But that's not the case. Here we are. Today, I want to welcome Jordan Marshall, the 2021 Hobie BOS Angler of the Year. Jordan, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing fantastic. Just got off work, ready to talk a little fishing.
Well, hey, I'm super excited tonight because I expect some of our viewership to drop off because nobody's here to interpret what you and I are saying.
That's fair.
Yeah, and a majority of and probably our older listenership is up in the Northeast.
Oh, they're going to be struggling tonight.
They are. Usually Alex is here to help them out, but tonight, and we tried subtitles, but it looked like German when I spoke. So they're on their own.
Yeah, I that accent doesn't come through well, but I can put all sorts of accent on there. I can sound like Coach O tonight if you want me to.
I want to start posting my dictations when I send out text through Siri, what I say versus what she types out, because I've sent some without proofing them, and they've gone to my wife, and they've been not very nice. But anyway, we'll get back on track. That's a problem. I do get off track, so and I know you said you're a talker, so it might be another 3 or 4 hour episode, Alex. I'm just kidding. We're gonna get back on track with that. All right, tonight, man, I am drinking a Jade IPA, Foothills Brewery, down here local, and they're in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. So
I
they
got
up there in the foothills of the moonshine counties. What you got, Bo?
I got I went fancy tonight because I wanted to make sure no one roasted me, at least for nothing drinking nothing too chill. I went respect for all the Northeastern folks, and we're gonna dominate a youngling tonight. So
there we go, old Yingling, man. Jordan done jumped the thing. Now I gotta do mine separately. Mine's a bottle tonight too, and Alex be. Oh, I'm trying to do it with a DD22, but I don't want to break it because I still fish with it. There we go.
Oh yeah, you don't want to break it.
No, that's a collector's item. That thing from the late 90s.
By the old ones, they're like old bandits and old wiggle boards, man. They are worth their weight.
Yeah, man, I got some old crankbaits somebody gave me up there, and I got a couple square bills where the square bill is like cut out is part of the bait. It's not an insert.
Oh.
Yeah, it's pretty.
It's like the bill is epoxy, just like the rest of the bait.
No, it's like the bill was carved with the bait.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Oh yeah, old school.
It's all tangled up and shit. I don't fish with it. It's all a mess. But anyway, damn, I forgot what I was gonna say. Anyway, I want to thank. I keep forgetting this, but I want to thank Hookset Hoodlums. Y'all, look at here. It's Christmas time. Get you some Hookset Hoodlum gear. I just got my certified pond wrecker hat in. I love it. Those folks up there, Wild Bill, and those folks listened to me and Carlos, Lone Star Kayak Fishing, and got us some trucker hats because it gets hot down here, and those non-web hats down here they don't let our ship breathe, and it doesn't work out good.
So, I don't think I own anything unless it's got the web on the back. My mullet's got to have some free room to flow, my man.
People won't remember Steve Tannehill from the mid South Carolina Gamecock days, but your mullet is not quite as blonde as his, but man, it's pretty. It's a nice flowing mullet.
Hey, I try my best, man. I got a perm in it probably 6 months ago. I need to get the perm revamped in that thing. It's getting a little light from the sun this summer, but I need to get this thing nice and curled back up again so I can flex on them.
We get some volume in it when it's got that perm, right? Got some bounce.
Yeah, it'll bounce. It's got some natural wave to it, but it don't have curl like when I first got it.
Well, go to Hooks at Headlam's, get you some cool fishing gear. They got some winter stuff out right now. Use HEELS, HEELS 10 to get you a little 10% discount. Also, shit, I can't forget this. Alex will kill me. We dropped some merchandise. Another word that I'm starting to hate as much as hammer and some of these other damn fishing words, but we've got some merchandise now. We posted it on our Instagram. We'll post it out again. You can go get you a t-shirt, some neck gaiters. I think we got some long tees, and we got Bass and Brews fishing podcast stuff. And Alex has some swamp rat fishing stuff. So go check that out.
Is your merch Game Changer merch?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Game Changer merch from Two Hammers.
You got to hit every one of them. You're going to talk about buzzwords. We got to hit every one of them.
Oh my God. I wasn't thinking about it tonight, but I was a couple episodes ago, and I brought that question up, what's some overused terms in fishing? And, I mean, people get on that shit. You get so many damn hammers out there that at some point, I guess we're going to have to start calling them something else, because everybody's a hammer by, in a year, everybody's going to be a hammer.
Hey, you cut one check, you're a hammer. One check here, you're a hammer. It's bona fide. That's in the rule book. That's on the KBN Nation handbook.
Oh, shit. One check. Does it have to be a national check?
No. Local check.
Oh, shit.
5 people winner take all tournament. You win. You get the National Hammer Award.
Can it be an online tournament? Can you be a hammer if the only checks you cash are online?
Of course. Yeah, you win an online tournament, you're a bag of hammers.
You're a sledgehammer. You're the 15-pound. You're a 15-pound hammer. That's what we're gonna do. We start putting numbers in front of the hammer size.
Yeah, you go. Online tournaments. Don't get me started on that.
We won't. That's the
Hey, you talk about getting sidetracked. I will pave a whole new road on that one. Well, I'm not a big online guy, but
yeah,
everybody's got their own thing. I ain't gonna roast nobody. It's just not my thing.
Well, talking about getting sidetracked, I'm the hammer of tangents. I've had quite a few podcasts go into 2+ hour ranges. 2 weeks ago, my live, we were supposed to be on there talking about kayak modifications. 4 hours later, we've had like 8 guests live before we ended it. It's like 12 o'clock.
I'm glad you had me on here for this one, because if you'd have had me on there for kayak modifications, we'd have been done in 10 minutes. Because I've been like, yeah, it's stock, Bobby. Ain't nothing wrong with that. It's stock.
Look, me too. I'm pretty basic on mine. I ain't drilled a hole in mine yet. I don't plan to anytime soon. But there are a lot of people that they modify them up, and I'm fine with that. That's their kayak, their money. And we're actually going to I'm getting Delirious back on, not next week, but the week after. No, next week. And we're actually going to do it because he's done a lot of modifications for people. And I mean, honestly, I got a PA-14. And so to put the depth finder on there, it's already run. I got the damn, whatchamacallit, it's already under there. I don't have to worry about anything. Yeah. So everything was ready to be put on. And that's the biggest modification I have on my kayak is my depth finder.
Yeah.
So
Hope does a good job of making it pretty easy. I've had lots of kayaks and different brand, Jackson and obviously Pelican, where most people start out, and even just the newer Hobies, versus the older Hobies, they've made it really, really easy to user friendly to get everything rigged up.
Yeah, I mean that was one of the reasons why I went with that one. One of many, but that was one of them. Is that seeing what folks had to do to put the depth finders on there and to put some stuff on there, it just took a little bit extra, and they had it there, so I went that route. But tonight we're really here to talk about whatever the hell we want to talk about. But Jordan, if y'all look, Jordan has done, I don't know what, 4 or 5 podcasts already on your AOY video.
Yeah, I think 3 or 4. Yeah.
So I know you can go. Let's name them off. You can go to KBN.
KBN, I've done 2 with oh my goodness.
Paddle and Fin.
Paddle and Fin, yeah, Paddle and Fin. I've done 2 episodes of Paddle and Fin, and they're KBN was an hour that I split with Christine and Lambert and Jeff, and that was really fun. But I've probably done close to 3 hours with Paddle and Fin between those 2 episodes, and
Right.
I think it was probably more, especially the second one. Either one of them, they're a little more kind of just raw and straightforward as far as what I was doing this year and kind of how things like that happened. Little less filtered. I didn't have to worry about as many people roasting me. I saw there was 9,000 people on kayak or KBN live that night, so I was trying to keep things close to the vest, and I even knew my parents were watching too, so I couldn't go hog wild.
Well, I can promise you, your parents ain't watching this one. And if we got 9,000 people, it's somebody in Antarctica that just has created 9,000 logins. So you can let loose here. The only people that are going to see it are probably me and you.
Ooh.
I'm kidding. You'll get out there a little more than that, but we're growing, we're young, we ain't hit KBN stage yet. So what I'm getting at, folks, if y'all want to go listen to him recap his AOY, because it's a pretty damn awesome story. It's a great weekend of fishing. The hardest tournament in kayak fishing to win, which means to win the yearly part of it, the Angler of the Year. It's tough. I mean, it is tough. But go look at Paddle and Fin. Go look at KBN. Listen at that, because tonight, and I think you were on, God, I can't remember. It was one of the Paddle and Fin's podcasts you were on. You spoke briefly about keeping it simple.
Yeah.
Fishing simple. And that's from your kayak to your colors to your lure selection and stuff like that. That's how I am. I like to keep it simple. I don't have 85 different colors. I buy blues. I don't have to be the same blue. It's just if I go in there and they don't have the blue that I like, I go get a blue. It doesn't matter what color blue to me it is, or if they don't have the green pumpkin or whatever I like, I just get one. I don't care. But those are kind of the two, in a white. So I really want to get into that mindset for you, because let me get to this before I forget it. And that's why I was trying to find this picture to save it. And I'm a dumbass, y'all. I can't get this shit on the damn computer. But go to KBN's page, and he made a post. These are all of his AOYs.
-1.
-1.
Somebody let me know in the comments that I forgot one.
Y'all, those aren't tournament winning trophies. Those are Angler of the Year. How many's in there? I forgot to count.
I think there's 6 in the picture, and then I missed one. Or
7.
Yeah,
right.
7. Yeah, there's something like that.
7 Angler of the Years. There's a lot of people around here that only have 7 top 3 finishes with trophies. So hearing how you're approaching your tournament from a mindset and from a technical aspect of the actual fishing, of it being simple, is very intriguing to me, because and we'll get into it, because I want people to hear how you fish. It to me, it seems like it has made you super focused in what you're good at doing, and in turn, you've been able to replicate that tournament after tournament after tournament. And so you might not be winning them all, but you're up there enough that you're competing for that long drawn out Angler of the Year process.
Yeah. I think obviously keeping it very simple. There's a lot of stuff like you mentioned, you would go and get, if you wanted something blue, you would just buy some other blue. I literally buy, like, and you can probably see behind me, I ain't trying to give nothing too crazy away. If you see some of that stuff, I've got like the same baits that I like using just up there, just so I don't ever have to wonder like, hey, do I have enough of what I want to have? Or like Cincos, I buy a bunch of like just big packs from somebody I don't know, somebody off Facebook. I mean, because I think most Cincos are all the same, and I buy like 7-inch Cincos, and if they're not hitting a 7-inch Cinco, I'll cut it down an inch and I'll throw a 6-inch Cinco, the same one. I buy these big Ziploc bags full of Cincos, and I've got 9 million white and chartreuse jackhammers, and every single one of them are ½ ounce, and I'll go buy a dozen at a time if I've got 3 or 4 left. If I'm afraid that I'm going to, run out in a tournament somewhere, I'll go buy another dozen and just put them in the box. And I mean, same with my spinner baits. I make a lot of my own spinner baits.
Oh,
I mean, granted, these are obviously faded a little bit, but everybody knows the white and chartreuse jackhammer. It's been sitting up here and got a little rusty, but I tie my own spinner bait color. It's the same color. I mean, I throw the exact same, so I don't have to worry about it. And that's a little bit of a custom one with some different stuff on it. Like I said, it's been sitting here, but I mean, now if you look in my kayak, a lot of people know I throw a lot of spinner baits. I have probably 50 spinner baits in my kayak year round minimum. And if I'm fishing a river tournament and I know, or if I'm going to a river that I'm not familiar with, I'll take extra spinner baits and make some extra beforehand. And I've probably got 4 or 5 each of that same color in there. And
so, all right, that's good because that's interesting to me because I love spinner baits.
yeah.
I'll throw the jackhammer and stuff like that. Matter of fact, that jackhammer just got right for a Ryan Lambert to throw. Been sitting in there, got dusty and rusty.
Oh yeah, it's I ought to give that to him because I'll take it off when it's about like that. But I don't think it has enough patina on it yet for him.
Good night, honey. So the spinner baits, then talking about simplicity, you have 50 on your boat. Tell me, are they all Colorado, all willow leaf? Like, what are the blade combinations and colors look like?
I think the biggest thing is just my thing is a spinner bait, and I think some people it's a buzz bait. There's guys that I hang out with at the tackle shop whose thing is a buzz bait. And I think if you're going to be consistent, you got to be very comfortable throwing all kinds of things. But I think you got to choose something that you can go throw everywhere you go and be comfortable throwing. Now my personal favorite is a spinner bait. Now I will throw a jackhammer with the best of them, but I feel like if I had my choice, I'd just assume throw a spinner bait. Now I've got a box here that has spinner bait or blades in it that they don't make. They don't really sell commercially. I mean, this is nothing but blades in here.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll normally keep a box with me if I'm traveling, and if I feel like I need to make something, I'll make something when I'm out traveling. I'll keep some of the popular skirts, but mostly it's blades because I think you can change a lot of blades out. Now, the main 3 that I throw are a Terminator that is a particular color that they don't really sell the same skirt material that I can get a hold of. And I'm going to keep that particular nugget to myself for the time being. And I basically throw white and chartreuse with a double Indiana. These are both just gold hammered Indiana blades that are just wore out, but you can kind of see there.
Mm-hmm.
And I like these quick clips. I don't know if you can see that. It's those quick clevis clips in the front.
Yeah, yep.
These things basically, if I wanted to change in the middle of a tournament, it's already off. And then you can pop a completely different one back on. A lot of people don't know that they make that or whatever. And I feel like, I mean, obviously the other one's just on a split ring. So, I mean, I can pop 2 different blades on there very quickly. I do it quite a bit. But mostly it's going to be a white and chartreuse with some sort of Indiana blade. And then I've got a lot of shad colors that I throw with the double willow. I've got some very, very weird, wonky blades that that not many people throw, which I don't even have any close here. They're sitting in a box over here, but they're I have to like special order them, and I'll basically order 100 of two sizes, one for the small front blade, one for the bigger back blade, and they're essentially a will leaf that's been modified a little bit, and that's my favorite one to throw if I'm just fishing for shad type stuff, and I think I throw a Colorado blade. I'll throw a Oklahoma blade which some people call the turtleback blade, which is basically just kind of an eye-shaped blade with a crease right down the middle. And I think that's pretty much it. I mean, I'll throw a couple random things here and there, just trying new stuff out, just to always experiment. But for the most part, that's about it. Oh, and a blade that a lot of people don't know exists that I throw some. I don't think it really makes a whole lot of difference in the grand scheme of things, but I just like throwing it because it's old school. It's a Dakota Blade. And if I can find one here, I'd be more than happy to show you. But I don't know if I have any of those sitting around here. I might have some right here. The Dakota Blade is a very, very interesting. I like throwing fluted blades. Indiana with a flute on it. Dakota Blade is the weirdest blade that anyone ever throws, or maybe even doesn't throw. I didn't know about it for a long time, and I really like it. But it's just something, like I said, it's something a little different. Yeah.
There you go. I got one
blade here. It's basically a wide willow that's been cut into a V.
I can't find mine. I've got one too that is real weird, and I got it because it looked good, but it's for muddy water. But it's so at the back looks like this. Looks like these two fingers.
Mm-hmm.
So it's split kind of like a feather at the back, just like this, and then it's curved. And so the vibration it puts off is huge. It's real big, and the spinner blade's got a rattle on it. So it's made for dirty, murky water. I want to find it because it's interesting. I got one. I get it because up here, like we were talking about earlier, I'm around Jordan Lake in North Carolina in Raleigh, and I don't know if it's in here. And that in the springtime, that lake is strictly here for flood control. Of the local rivers. And so in the springtime, when the water gets up, it gets absolutely nasty.
Really?
Yes. I mean, I'm talking chocolate milk. Shit, I don't see it. I'll probably find it tomorrow.
Yeah, but most of that stuff always goes, isn't it?
Yeah, I was looking for it's called a Venom. It's a 4-blade spinner bait.
Yeah.
Grab that. I love this thing, man. This summer, oh shit, here, look, it's right in front of my damn face. So I threw this one. My home lake, Sharon Harris, the shad get out there and the bass get to just tearing their tail up. And we throw a lot of blade baits on them in the summertime when they get active blowing up that. Well, I throw this too. And so it's like a mini A-rig, except it's a spinner bait. I caught bigger bass throwing this in the schools than we did top water or blade baits or crankbaits. I was catching bigger bass on this. It was real fun too because it'd be a school. I mean, your graph would light up, but you could feel them hitting the blades. But then you could tell when one got the hook, And then this is the other one. It's a hog collar. I couldn't remember it. But that's the blade.
Oh, that's wild. Yeah,
And
that's
man,
great.
and so it's got a rattle. So it's like a rattle jig.
Yeah.
And man, when that thing's coming through the water, man, it's it's almost like that jackhammer on your rod tip, man. Your rod tip is just
Really?
yeah. But I got it for dirty waters, mainly here at Jordan.
Huh, that's pretty wild.
Yeah. I haven't had any luck on it, but I didn't throw it a bunch last year because I wasn't fishing Jordan at the time that it was soup. But
Yeah.
that's that one. Well, so before we get more into the specifics of that, of baits and stuff like that, how did you come to fish like this? Like, what's your progression, your story of starting fishing and starting fishing, getting the kayak fishing, and then why you have, and I call it dumb down. I'm a dumbass. How you've dumbed down fishing to the point that you don't have to. You're not over here. Your brain's not running 100 miles an hour the
Yeah.
morning of or the day before or during a tournament.
Yeah. So I started out fishing with my dad. He bought a bass tracker in 06, 07. I was probably in sixth grade, I guess, something like that.
Damn.
Yeah,
Yeah, youngin'.
I just turned 26. Yeah, born in 95. So we started fishing and stuff, and my dad likes to do one thing pretty much, and one thing only, and he's very, very good at it, but it is not particularly my style. He likes to get from here to the other side of my building over there and underhand flip a jig on everything that he sees.
Oh Lord, he
He's
picks
very
apart branches on trees, huh?
Yeah. He likes fishing that way, and he's very good at it. If I'm in the boat with him, there's not a whole lot of catching fish behind him because if he puts a jig everywhere there is to put one. So,
Oh man, damn.
and it everybody wants to learn something different when they do something the same a lot, and I really liked going and wading the river with a buddy of mine when we first got our license, and we would go over here to a little place called the Little River in Maryville, and the river's not very good in the grand scheme of things. But we would go and we would tie on little tubes and little jigs that we would make, and we would go and wade the river. And it was like, man, we catch a lot of fish going down through here in just the few hundred yards that we wade. Man, I wonder how good it would be to fish some more of this. So my buddy got a canoe, and we put a little trolling motor on it. Took it to the lake the first time. We couldn't catch any fish in the lake. We went and put the canoe in where we normally fish, wade, and we wrecked them, and it was awesome. And I was like, all right, so I gotta figure this out. So for my 16th birthday or 17th birthday, my 16th birthday, because he was a year older than me, so I got a kayak for my 16th birthday, and I went and hit every pond, every neighborhood pond, everywhere there was water, moving, not moving, whatever. That kayak was in there in Blount County, and it really just evolved from that. I never wanted to sit in one place and fish and just fish, throw a jig or something. It started out, me just making rooster tails to go fish the river, and I made my own rooster tails.
Oh, nice.
I thought it was stupid to go pay $6 for $5 for rooster tail, and
Dude, it's crazy how expensive those things are.
here I am paying $20 a pop for these things. Uh, things change a lot, and you go from you go from a $300, $400 kayak to a $5,000 kayak, and the people kind of forget of what happens all along the way, and but when I was floating the river, man, you float the river in a kayak, especially a cheaper kayak. There's not a whole lot of stopping and fishing what you want to do. It's just you sit in the kayak and you hold on and you make as many casts as possible. And it seemed the more casts I made, the more fish I caught. So that's just how I kind of started tournament fishing, was I'm just going to go out here and make a bunch of casts. Now, I've certainly, put depth finders. I've had Lowrance 9s with side scan and try to do it the right way and all that stuff. And it seemed like there would be times where I would be looking at my depth finder and they would be fish blowing up and be like, well, that's not what I'm out here to pattern. I'm here to pattern fish and catch this way instead of just going out and having fun and fishing. And I was sitting there doing that one day, and we had like a little Thursday night, weeknight tournament or something where everybody shows up and pays $20, and it's really fun. And I was sitting there trying to fish a point on an awful lake here we have called Fort Loudon. It's a terrible lake. If anybody wants to see how bad that lake is, go and look at the whatever the new BFL is. It was about 3 weeks ago. It was right before I went to Eufaula, a week before. And the guy that won had, I think, 14 pounds in 2 days and won a BFL with like 160 boats in it. And he had like 11 pounds the first day. Caught 11 or 12 pounds and caught one fish the second day and still won.
Yeah, I've heard, Catfish Dave and Kayak Catfish, at least from the fishing side on their side, talk shit about Fort Loudon.
Kayak Catfish knows. I know Kayak Catfish very well.
Matter of fact, the first time I ever saw you wasn't it you with Eric Romines and him did a live on the bank?
Yes, it was Eric Thomason, and yes,
Thomason. Yes,
yeah, that was about a year ago, give or take.
Yeah, because you were supposed to start your damn YouTube channel then, and we still ain't got it.
Still ain't got it. I've still got all my logos and everything. I ain't got nothing, but this I got it on my wallet because this is where all my money is. Marshall Fishing, except there's no Marshall Fishing other than just for a tax write-off.
Yeah, that's the first time I ran across you was during that video with him because I've been watching his stuff since like 2014 when I bought my first kayak.
Yeah.
Wasn't even for fishing, but anyway.
Yeah, Justin's great. I'm so happy he's had success with that. It's he's a goofy dude, but man, he's great. He's so great. I'm happy he's doing well with that.
Well, he teaches. He's honest about what he does, and he teaches. And to me, if you want to be, if you, and I've said this a million times on this show, so I won't go into it deep because we need to get back to the real shit.
Yeah.
A YouTube channel fishing, especially nowadays, not 5-8 years ago when people were just starting, but nowadays, you need to catch big fish. It don't matter what kind of fish it is, just needs to be big. And or it needs to be educational.
Yeah.
Like that, those two things are what set the new folks coming on.
Yeah.
I sets them apart.
A lot of time trying to learn, watch, go and hang out with Justin and watch and see what he does and when he's doing those live videos, and I try my best to be there and just watch and learn and things like that. For the longest time, as far as YouTube goes, I thought, who's going to want to listen to some 21, 22, 23-year-old kid ramble on about kayak fishing? And then as time goes on, it's like, oh, somebody's going to know more than me. Somebody, I don't know the most. And then when you really get to a point where you're thinking about it and you take a step back and look objectively at what's going on, everybody knows the Guggen Squad. And I watch Guggen Squad videos and I get pissed off because I'm like, man, these dudes are my age or younger, and I ain't gonna talk bad about nobody, but at the same time, it's like, dude, I don't know what y'all are even doing in half these videos. And I'm not the type of person that's gonna strap a GoPro to a fish and a 10-pounder and let it swim around and try to get GoPro footage off of it. I just assume not be famous is to do that because I would feel bad about it. But I really like Tactical Bassin', and I think that they do a great job of explaining things and being pretty straightforward. Obviously, Catfish does a great job. I mean, never years, I think that they would be, 100,000 people or whatever he's got that subscribe to his channel.
Well, what's crazy about Justin, and he's the one, Alex, on this show, we bring on content creators that's Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, tournament anglers, regular ass dudes, whoever. We bring people on this show who like to fish, and it doesn't matter where, how, why. But I brought this up on a lot of our content creation thing. I use him as a great example, right? He's got a stock intro with his music and all. His stuff is not I didn't even it's edited, but it's cuts. Like it's cuts of him talking, catching fish, educating, talking fish. But what it comes down to with him, he catches big ass fish, and you'll see in his comments over and over and over, people will go, that what he's calling dinks is like the biggest catfish I've ever caught.
Yeah.
That's the recurring thing. He's out there in a kayak catching 20, 30, 40, 50-pound catfish in a kayak.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's a whole different. He's not doing anything special. He doesn't have a video crew. He doesn't have all these editing tricks and cut, like 85 cast cut out before you catch, catch, it's a giant. It comes back, it's a pound it's just that. But whole different ball game. We get away from that. We get back to your story. Fishing with your dad, y'all grew up, got your license, started fishing the creeks, Fort Loudon, a sorry ass lake in Tennessee.
Terrible.
Sorry. Terrible. That's terrible.
Terrible.
So you go from that and now you're in a kayak. So it sounds like you're starting to graduate into more competitive fishing in the kayak.
Yeah. Out the gate, first kayak tournament was a college kayak tournament. It was on Gunnersville. So my first kayak tournament wasn't even home state of Tennessee. Drove down to Gunnersville. And finished second in the individual. Our Tennessee team won the team championship. I've still got my black pack as my trophy from that I still use to this day, because if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And went to the next KBF Open, which was on Santee Cooper, which was essentially the national championship at the time.
Crib, Santee Cooper. I grew up about 45 minutes from there.
Well, for the record, I hated it. It was cold. It was probably 2014, 2015. It was garbage. Apparently, the lake was on a down year.
Wind blowing.
It was everything. The wind was blowing. It was cold. We had a frost the morning of. I'm in my freaking Pelican paddling around. It was awful. Hated it.
So you was doing circles.
Oh, I was doing my best just to not drown. And I was like, man, I said, if this place ever comes back, I'm never going back. And to this day, I have never went and fished another tournament.
Yeah, but you going back next year.
Yeah,
said you were.
Shout out to Vinny, because Vinny's taught me into it. I almost spur of the moment drove down there this past weekend to the big bass thing. I'm kind of glad I didn't, because they roasted it down there, and I probably would not have won big bass. I think we caught like a 24 inch or something down there.
So what's funny about Santee is I grew up catfishing there.
I've heard of like,
dude, I mean, world renowned. I mean, there's some giants in there, and it ain't deep either. You catfishing like 6 foot of water, catching 40 pounders.
That's cool.
I mean, it's also, the time you're down there, you probably didn't see it. It's also loaded with big ass alligators.
I saw a small alligator when I was down there.
Yeah, well, you come down there in the spring when it's warmed up. There's the small one you saw probably is a snack for the big ones. I mean, we talking about, there's some 12, 13 footers. They just started being able to kill alligators out of there in South Carolina, like 2010, I think, somewhere around there, 2010, give or take a couple years. And there's some dinosaurs coming out of there.
Yeah, they told me the same thing about Eufaula. And Eufaula, I didn't see a whole lot of big ones. I don't I'm from Tennessee, so I don't exactly see a whole lot of alligators up here.
Yeah.
God, I'm not a fan of the big lizards. And we go and redfish in South Louisiana down there at Venice. Every now and then, we went down there a couple of years for about a week at a time. And there ain't a whole lot of small gators down there. There's a lot of big gators down there. And we always went in the middle of August, so you'd hear them creeping around, make God knows what kind of noises. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go to Eufaula. Somebody's like, you better watch out for gators down there. And I'm like, man, I've dealt with gators in my Pelican at Santee Cooper that weren't real big. I've seen big gators, and there's a fantastic gator story about where everybody likes to think they're a bad dude when shit hits a fan. It turns out if I pedal over top of a gator in Venice, Louisiana, and I hit it with my pedal drive and it turns me 180 degrees backwards, I turn into a screaming woman. And pistol in my kayak or not, I do carry a Glock in the kayak and with me quite a bit.
That ain't it within reach, though.
And when it
Is
hits
this on camera?
No, it is not on camera, thank God.
Damn.
There is eyewitness report. But you can't see it here because it's saying, but I tuck my knees up in my Hobie seat and my legs come up off the pedals, and I keep my pistol down in my center hatch in the console, the drop-in box. And when it hits the fan, I'm not reaching down for the drop-in box, it turns out, because when it goes sideways in a hurry,
fetal position.
lot of screaming is what's happening.
Now, is that a downplayed scream? Scream like you did when it happened.
I can't scream like it's going to happen because Mom and Papa will come out here thinking somebody's done bloody murder because my little tackle here by my Mom and Papa's house. And they don't need a heart attack at 10 o'clock at night because I'm lucky they ain't out here unplugging my power and going to bed yet. So yeah. Think of something you see out of a movie of a small girl, not even a full-size one. Think of a small girl in a movie, and that's the kind of scream that you would hear.
See, that's wonderful because I mean, how many of us fishing are reeling in that buzz bait or reeling in some kind of top water lure, and you get it right to the boat, and the fish hits it, and you're like, oh shit, I mean,
yeah.
Think of an alligator.
Hey, I'm a jumpy person. I'm a jumpy person anyway. So it's if fish blows up beside me, I'm already jumping. Jumping. And man, I mean, I was pedaling along right here in this little cut, like you see on TV show. I'm cutting through there, and I go to pedal, and it's like I hit a stump at Seminole. Just a foot pedal stops, and then I go. I'm backwards.
But there's a weight leaving.
I didn't know. I could have been in the water for all I knew. I had no idea what was happening. Was that an
alligator? I'm laughing because I've been in some similar situations, but I mean, that's the thing, man. You get into these lakes down where I'm at. Your visibility is 2 feet.
Yeah.
Like on good days, it's 2 feet. So you can only guess how big that it could have been. It could have been a 6-foot alligator, which will take toes and fingers. Or it could have been a 13-footer that takes down 200-pound deer.
It took a 14-foot pro angler and turned me backwards. So as far as I'm concerned, it was a 27-foot alligator.
So what did you do after that happened? Not directly, like once you realized your big ass was alive. What did you go fishing, or you're like, we leaving, we gone?
No joke. I asked my buddy. I said, which way did it go? He said, well, I don't know. And I kind of sat there for a second. We looked around. We were like, all right, so we started working our way back towards the truck. Still fishing, mind you, once we got out of the area. I pedaled rather quickly for about 20, 30 yards. And then I was like, well, I don't know whether I'm going towards it or against it or away from it or whatever else. I might be chasing it for all I know. And it was very, very funny. You know, we were all giving each other a hard time. I was already smiling about it once everything was cool. It was a little uneasy, that 20 or 30 yards. I had Glock in hand, looking around.
Were you flutter kicking?
Oh, flutter kicking 100%. I was petrified. And once we kind of got back out in the open, I felt a lot better.
Did you get your gun in your hand?
Gun was in hand. I had one hand on the rudder, one hand looking. Flutter kicking. And it was very funny, and I didn't really think a whole lot of it after that. It didn't. I was like, okay, well, you know, worst case scenario, I spook an alligator. It's not going to attack me, and I was very calm. And we get back to this little place we call the Mud Launch, or as we like to say it with a little accent, because the random Cajun that told us about it called it the Mud Launch, down at the Mud Launch down there. And we get back to the Mud Launch, and there's a great big Cajun. Old man with a with some sort of flat bottom boat rig. Yeah, mud launch down there.
Mud launch.
And
AKA mud launch.
We get back to the mud launch where the truck is, and Cajun's there putting his boat in, and he had all these bamboo poles. And I asked him, I said, man, I said, what you doing today? He said, it's alligator season. I'm out here to get an alligator. And I said, man, I said, there's about a freaking giant alligator 100 yards that way. I said, that would make me the happiest person in the world if I came back over here later and you had that thing strung up. And he said, how you know there's an alligator over there? I said, well, I snuck up on it and I hit it with my boat. And he looked down. I'll never forget it. You can ask the guys I was with. I'm not kidding you. He looks down, looks back up, and he goes, oh, no. You don't sneak up on alligator. Alligator sneak up on you. And I went, oh, my God. And that story was never the same. It was very funny to me. It was relaxing for a little bit, back to the ramp. And then the rest of the week I was down there, I was petrified every time I went. because it never hit me that I probably did not sneak up on the alligator, that I might have just, I don't know what happened. I don't want to know what happened at this point. As far as I'm concerned, I still stuck up on the alligator.
Yeah. Have you seen the movie Lake Placid from the 90s?
No.
Well, it's about these crocodiles in a lake in New York. So the shit's fictional as hell, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, I can promise you the alligator ain't coming up to eat your kayak fins. Oh man. Damn, see, hey, look, guys, if you're still here with us, we're gonna transition from Jordan about getting ate by a 27-foot alligator down in Louisiana. We're going to transition back to what we were talking about. I don't forgot where the fuck we
we're talking about alligators at Santee.
Oh, no. We got off on the alligator tangent because you went down to Santee in your Pelican.
Yes. Yeah. I was comfortable with alligators, comfortable with Eufaula. They were giant.
Time out. Hold on. I'm going to interrupt you. I hold on. Y'all, this man drove from Tennessee to South Carolina to fish in one of the most you listen to professional boat anglers talk about what are your top 3 worst lakes ever to fish on, most dangerous, scariest situations. 90% of them, if they fished down on Santee when the wind was blowing, the weather was bad, 90% of them have Santee Harris on the ass. This man drove his ass down from Tennessee to go fish Santee Cooper in a Pelican.
Yeah, in a Pelican with rubber stoppers in my scupper holes, because that was what somebody told me to do. Go to Home Depot, get little rubber stoppers that look like wine bottle stoppers. And you smash them things down in your scupper holes.
Hammer them down.
When it gets windy, the scupper holes have a purpose because they drain your kayak out of water.
That's right.
Well, the first day I did not have a sponge, so I just kept going back to the area where I put in at, and I just kind of turned my kayak over, drain a little water out, and then go paddle 20 or 30 yards away, and I couldn't figure out why I couldn't catch any fish. And day 2, I got smart. I went to Walmart that night, and I bought a sponge and sponged that water, so I didn't have to make as many trips to the boat dock that day. But it was not the brightest decision I ever made. Santee was tough, and it was miserable.
But the story's leading to you creating who you are as an angler now, and how you fish simple, how you keep fishing simple.
Yeah, that's so. Long story short, there's a million stories, obviously, like has. And long story short, I started fishing local stuff, and we're very, very blessed to have lots of different types of lakes here. Within 2 hours, our local trail, no matter what it's been called, who runs it over the last like 6-7 years, we'll fish Cherokee and Douglas, sometimes Norris, and those 3 are very highland reservoirs. They get dropped 20 feet, 30 feet in the winter. It's all raw, and if unless you fish it in the spring, then you fish it in the spring, and it's a Cinco bite because they get up on them flooded trees and stuff. You basically just go flip flooded brush, and if you're in the right place, you can catch a bunch of smallmouth and flooded brush on Cincos. And you got to be versatile enough. In the winter, you do a lot of cranking. Depending on what time of year you're up there, you can go up there and throw top water all day and just cover water. A lot of those highland reservoirs are just covering water because I'm not going to go out there and throw a Demiki in 40 foot. And, then we have lakes like Loudon and Tellico, and even Melton Hill. They're all 3 notoriously tough. They're all right here, kind of the closest lakes around the house. We've got beautiful, beautiful clear mountain lakes with, the upper end of Tellico's like that. And Chilhowie, which is one of the lakes really close to my house. It's just unbelievably clear. It's a small little mountain lake with 3 boat ramps on it. And then, we'll travel down and we'll fish Watts Bar and Chickamauga. And, everybody knows about Chickamauga. It's got giant, giant fish in it. And Watts Bar, which is a very, very fantastic lake that has really good fish in it. It's got a lot of the 17, 18, 19-inch fish in it. And, really, we've got grass fisheries, and we've got unbelievable rivers here, and you just have to be very versatile. And, nobody really practices and pre-fishes for local tournaments, kayak tournaments, because we're all just working folks, working Monday through Friday and fish a tournament on Saturday and go to church on Sunday. And a lot of the, tournaments, you're showing up fishing. A lot of times we're at the same boat ramp, and especially same boat ramp tournaments like we all do with kayaks. Whoever covered the most water normally won, unless there was just a magical spot, within a mile or so of the boat ramp. Whoever covered the most water generally won. So I kind of got into the habit of doing that, from the get-go. Even when I was paddling, I'd do 7 miles in the Pelican and just be miserable. So I learned really quickly I had to get a hold.
All right. So let's timestamp this. When the hell did you quit? When did you upgrade from the Pelican? Like, I don't care after that, but when were you like, this is dumb. I'm going to pay extra $300 and get a real kayak.
What's nuts is I've owned basically 3 bands of kayaks. I had my original Pelican. I've had quite a few Jacksons over the years. But as far as my primary kayak and how long it lasted, I had a Pelican longer than I had a Jackson. Because I had my Pelican for probably 2 years off the start.
Wow.
I had my Jackson that I bought in October. And by the following July, my Jackson didn't even make it a year as my primary boat. I bought a Hobie within a year.
Mm-hmm. So you figured out you're like, but you're also fishing in an area where you've got some of the best anglers, kayak anglers in the country.
Absolutely.
So you're getting to see the boats they're in. You maybe have tried them out. Like, you were able to see stuff, see how they had them set up, And so that Jackson to Hobie, just being around those folks that had a wide, probably I would bet you went to a tournament there, a Saturday tournament, and probably every fishing kayak made was at that tournament in the area you're in.
Yeah, especially the first few years, there was a lot of Wildy because Wildy was really popular.
Bonafide.
Huh?
Yeah, those in Bonafides.
Oh, well, I'm talking like pre Bonafide. I'm talking like early like Ascend.
Oh yeah, okay.
All right. Heritage, like all those like OG fishing kayaks, Jackson, Wildy, Perception, all like the OG paddle kayaks were there. And there was one dude in a Hobie. And it took about 2 tournaments of me seeing that and going, all right, we're all putting in at the same boat ramp. I'm a young guy and I'm paddling my freaking butt off in this Coosa. And I had an OG Coosa. This is pre-Coosa HD days. There was no HD at the time. And I just watched that dude just gone. And I'm like, I'll wise up to something here. And at first it was like, man, I don't know if pedals are right. There's so much of an advantage. I got in a Hobie for the first time and bought one within a week. I was 19. And yeah, that's right. 3 years. 19. I went out and bought a Hobie, a used Hobie Pro Angler 12, which is sitting right outside this building right now.
Oh, nice.
It was a 2014 Hobie that was, a year or two old.
Yeah.
Love it. It was literally one of the best purchases. I can honest to goodness say that was the best purchase I think I've ever made in my life. Because it just opened the door for so much. It was unbelievable. I mean, after that, it seemed like I could cover more water. It seemed like it was such an advantage. It just wasn't even fair, whether it was rivers or just these big highland reservoirs or whatever it was. It seemed like wherever I went, I could cover more water than everybody else. And the more water I covered, the more fish I caught. So I started fishing faster and faster and faster. And you ask a lot of the guys I fish with, they're like, I fish fast, but this dude will leave you in a hurry if we're going down the river or something where it's, make as many accurate casts as possible and don't get hung up. And I feel like that's something that I do really, really well is make very accurate casts. Drew Gregory's like that. Drew gets up in a lot of stuff, and I've heard a lot of people that when they get Drew on camera and stuff is he's very fundamentally and technically sound. And there's, you'll see a lot of guys in videos and stuff do that. There's Pro Neighbor, one of the guys we fish with. He's very, very technically sound. You don't hear of him getting hung up a whole lot. Or when
probably the best name in fishing, Pro Neighbor.
Yeah, he's a goon, man. I talked to him today. We're trying to get our tournament planned out for Saturday.
And so that's interesting. You talk about covering water because down here, our lakes down here are small comparatively speaking to the big lakes that folks are fishing in these professional tournaments. That's why bass has never been to Harris Falls or Jordan. MLF comes down here because they can split their people up and then put 30 boats on Harris, which is a small reservoir. And so in the kayak fishing here, though, because they're small, so there's not a lot of like Drew Gregory places to put in.
Yeah.
Like there's not a lot of backwater. There's not a lot of places you can just stick kayaks in. We're putting in at ramps. And so when you talk about covering water, that's what I like to do. Like I will cover 13, 14 miles. I got a 2019 Pro Angler. So I'll cover 13, 14 miles in a tournament. Usually those are the ones that either it's that time of year, right? They're up on the bank and I'm hitting specific stuff, or what I plan to do ain't working, or I don't know what to do, right?
Yeah.
And so I can cover that water in this boat. But what Sharon Harris is a good example. Bo, there's 2 places to put in that lake. And like today, I listened to BTL's podcast from yesterday, and they had Garrett Paquette on.
Yeah.
And one of the things he talked about was the difference between the elites and fishing the opens. Was the elites, you pattern, as my daughter used to call it, pattern. You pattern some fish. And so when you pattern those fish, you go hit all those spots. You know, if it's rocky points, you go hit all the rocky points.
Yeah.
But there's 100 boats. But in the opens, there's 200 boats. You have to spot fish.
Yeah.
You know, you have a couple spots, and you hope that the one you get on first is one they biting, because somebody's probably going to be in your other spots. And so that's one of the things around this area that I've learned, which is different from what you said, is that here there's a lot of spot fishing.
Yeah.
You know, it's hard to, because I like that. If nothing's working, I know I can just go until I can either find a pattern, or there's going to be fish at certain points in certain areas to go, and it makes it hard. So all right, so for the anglers that are new, and when new's relative, right?
Right.
What got you to start to realize, or to start to narrow down those baits and those colors? How did you start to come, like, what is your thought process? So you got all these new anglers, they're watching Tactical Bass, and they're watching all these shows about all these baits. How did you start to narrow down the like a color and a bait? And I think you need to throw a bunch of different baits, but how did you start to narrow it down to keep it simple like you do? If you were talking to a new angler who wanted to know that.
Personally, for me, it's two things. Okay, fair enough. I was about to explain it backwards, and I think this is going to explain a little easier.
Well, explain it backwards, because that, to me, that makes sense to explain it backwards, because it sounds like there's a timeline and a story.
It's confidence in what I'm throwing, and you get to a certain point of, okay, I'm only going to buy these because it all started. It came from a conversation I had with a very popular bait maker, and asking him about custom painting colors. And I asked him, I said, man, I would love to get this custom painted. Do you think this looks a little better on this big glide bait with, and I like to throw big baits too. And I was like, do you think it makes a difference on a little bit of gill pattern, a little red stripe on the gill? And he basically told me, he's like, hey man, I've guided for a long time before I started making baits. In my opinion, there's only lights and darks.
Mm-hmm.
And not long after I had that conversation with him, I was up at Dale Hollow fishing a tournament, and I ran into just some random local guy, and I was telling him, I was like, man, I've thrown 30 different colors of crankbaits today, and I said, I cannot figure them out. He said, man, he said, it's Dale Hollow. He said, you do two things. He said, you throw white baits or black baits. And I was like, huh. You know, that kind of goes in line with a conversation I had like 6 days beforehand. And he said, have you thrown white? And I said, yeah. He said, you thrown black? I said, no. And of course, I look over in their boat, and they've got basically just all black and red, black and blue stuff tied on. And I said, why you got black and blue and black and red? He said, that's just the one I bought. They didn't have black and blue, so I bought black and red. And I was like, you know what? So I started, slowly working my way down, and I don't particularly just go white and black. I don't particularly just go light dark. I think there's certain things, like the 3 spinnerbait colors I throw. Yeah. I've got a white and chartreuse that I throw everywhere I go. I've got a basic shad colored willow leaf pattern, and I've got a very, very natural color. And I think that's where you kind of differ. So I like to look at things as bright, whether it's white or chartreuse or pink. I mean, this one's got white, chartreuse, and pink on there. And if there's a chartreuse trailer on there, that's fine with me. I like to keep it simple. And that's why I have 9 million chartreuse baits over here hanging on the wall. because I just once I found something I like, I bought a bunch of them.
Frank Scalish says that bass see chartreuse as a brighter white. That's so they see white, but the chartreuse isn't, obviously we go into the science of how bass see, but what he said was that yellow shows up as a brighter white to them.
Yeah, I mean that probably explains a lot is why that goes, and the third part of that conversation, as far as things clicking with me, here's a question I'll ask you, and my question pertained to what bright colored bait should I throw in muddy water. And a guy told me one time, he said, well, when the water's really, really dirty and you catch a fish, what does the bass look like when you catch it? I'm like, I don't know. It's like pale. And he goes, so it's more white? And I'm like, well, yeah. He said, so why are you throwing bright blues and everything else if the water's dingy and you're throwing white, or you're trying to throw different colors? He said, why not just throw pale white? Because if the bass are getting white, the bait fish are getting more white. And I'm like, man, that's the simplest, smartest thing I've ever heard in my life. And it became one of those things where, obviously you have situational colors with very, very bright whites and things like that. And I've got spinner baits that are all white with white blades. And I've got jackhammers that with white blades that I've painted. And, everybody has situational things like that. But if I'm going somewhere, 9 times out of 10, when you go fish a tournament, the water's a reasonable color. I don't fish a lake a whole lot. I don't fish a lake more than a few times in a year, unless it's like a Thursday night tournament on Loudon, and that lake's so bad you're not going to pattern fish most of the time.
The worst lake in the country.
It's one of the worst, honestly. And I like to think of that as a good place where I learned how to just grind through and catch fish. But at the end of the day, I've got to have enough baits that I know I can show up anywhere in the country and more than likely figure them out. Green pumpkin Cincos, I've got black and blue Cincos. Now, I don't have white Cincos. I've got some white flukes. And as far as I'm concerned, a fluke is just a white Cinco. And it darts a little different because I rig it differently. And I've got white spinner baits and 2 natural colored spinner baits, one for bluegill and one for that. When it comes to jigs, I've got green jigs for the spring, black jigs for the winter, and brown jigs for if the water's really clear. And I think, it seems right. I don't carry a whole bunch of different colors of jigs and things like that. I like to try to get things in 3s. And almost all the time that I'm using all those, I've got a green pumpkin trailer on all 3 of them.
Yeah.
I buy a bunch of these and I keep a bunch of these in bolt. It's no secret.
Yeah.
I'm plain. If I try not to just keep it. I keep it where I just don't like to complicate things at all. I've got red worms that people throw, like just U-tail worms that I drag around, swim worms, whatever you want to do with them. I've got red worms. I've got an old worm that I like because my papa threw it for a long time. It's a pumpkin worm with a bright chartreuse tail. I don't know why that thing works, but it works. And that's my quote unquote bright worm.
Yeah.
And, that's about it for worms. I've probably got more in there, maybe some small black worms. For drop shots, I've got bright pink drop shot worms because that seems to be like the Aaron's magic color. And then I've got a very, very plain, like a shad colored, like a off clear colored gray and white colored worm. And then I've got a like green pumpkin flatworm because that seems to be something that's just stupid, and I have no idea, why that works, but it does. So I try to just keep 2 or 3 things of everything that typically makes sense to me. Now I've got, as far as I'm concerned, there's only 2 colors of crankbaits. There's red and there's shad. Everything else, I'm reeling a crankbait 9 times out of 10. I'm reeling a crankbait so fast, I hope they don't see it more than just it.
Right.
I buy them. And I
Yeah,
don't.
there's nothing slow about crankbaiting. I don't care who you are, what you're doing. Crankbaiting is now. I say that from this aspect. Like I throw anything I'm throwing 8 foot or deeper, I've got on a 5-to-1 reel. And if I throw that shit all day long, I'm not wore out, but man, I'm tired
Yeah.
because it is. I want it digging in there. There ain't nothing slow. There ain't nothing slow about crankbaiting. If you got to slow a crankbait down, you might as well throw on a jerkbait.
Yeah. Yeah. And I
But
don't.
I agree with that. So
That's
yeah,
slow. I don't throw a jerkbait. You can ask anybody. I hate throwing a jerkbait. I don't. I've got one box of jerkbaits, and half of them are mega bass. I've spent so much money on them. I don't know what to do with them. Somebody just needs to come in, and I'll sell them these jerkbaits because I don't know what half of them are. They're all kinds of red fancy mega bass jerkbaits with straight eyes and everything else, and I'm just doing them a disservice because I ain't moved them from this box out here on my table in months. And they're supposed to be pretty good, but I've got fancy jerkbaits that are. There's 2 fancy jerkbaits right there. So some of my jerkbait
yep.
people are mine that I'm sitting these. That's Spawn Cherry or something like that. I don't know how much I put for that clear one, and that red one's supposed to be a fancy one too. They're supposed to be good, but I don't know what I don't know what I'm doing with it. So they sit here. That's my jerkbait box. I got a fancy, nice little Plano jerkbait
Well,
box.
obviously during quote unquote jerkbait season, right? Because I don't believe there's times when you throw baits that do certain things, but not certain baits because of the time of the year, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. And if Alex was here,
Like
he'd
that
do
crankbait
this.
March.
Well, damn, again, Frank Scalish is talking about he's catching bass in water that's 38 and 40 degrees on crankbaits. So, I mean, and he's a professional angler. He fishes for a living now. But it's if you catch fish during jerkbait season doing something else, then and you're catching the same. If you're not catching a bunch of 10 and 12 inchers, you're catching the same quality fish. That why would you change, right? That why would I do something different if I'm catching the same quality fish as Paul doing this right here instead of throwing the jerk bait? Why would I change? Maybe to learn something new.
Yeah.
And this where I think certain baits and certain colors do come into play in certain areas. Like when you go to Florida, and not even Florida, you go to where I grew up in South Carolina, we've got a lot of that sweet tea water.
Yeah.
So it's black water. It's
Yeah.
it's clear. It doesn't look clear, but it's clear. It looks like sweet tea, right?
Yeah.
You can see farther down in the water than you perceive. And so growing up in that area, red shad, culprit worms, and then the what was it, cottonmouth? I don't know. It's a culprit worm that's black and gold.
Oh yeah,
Black and gold. It's old school.
They're black on one side and like a yellowy gold on the bottom.
That's right. Now, look, let's preface talking about colors again because you hadn't been on the podcast before. I'm colorblind. So when I start talking about colors, my shit, what I say, the word that comes out of my mouth might not be what the color actually is because my wife all the time is going, that's blue. I'm like, that shit looks purple to me. It looks like damn Barney.
Yeah.
So, but yes, black and gold culprit worm, the red shad culprit worm. That's like where I grew up. That's what you threw on a Texas rig.
Yeah.
Heavy grass, heavy weeds. You threw that, or a buzz bait in the morning. That was it. So there are certain specific situations that you get in where certain colors are what they just do there.
Yeah.
But in general, still, what is that though? That's a dark colored worm. A red shad's red and black. That's a dark colored worm.
That's dark to me. Yeah. And
So
you hear about a lot of that stuff everywhere we go. I mean, every lake has its time and place for everything. When I go to Loudon There's a particular jig that I like to throw that's got, I'm not going to give it away because somebody would shoot me if they ever saw it. But it's got flash like a marabou, like almost you would tie hair into. And for whatever reason, for about a month and a half, I'll take a few of my jigs and I'll tie a little of that in it, and then I keep those jigs set aside. And then wherever I go in February and March, I'll throw a red crankbait. When you go fish cypress trees, for whatever reason, they like a black and blue Cinco, and it's no secret. Every time we go anywhere with cypress trees, it's black and blue Cinco. And you get to any lake with herring or spotted bass, and you throw a chrome topwater. And basically anywhere I've ever been in June, in every lake anywhere, I throw a popper or some sort of popping topwater. And I mean, I don't know. Shad spawn, maybe. I don't know. I just assume.
Well, that's partly shad spawn, depending on where you are. But during that time of the year, at least in the South, right, that's your bluegill spawns. You have a lot of bluegill that are shallow and popping. I fucking hate popping lures. Like, I want a walking bait. I want to throw the walking bait. If they aren't biting that, I'm going to throw like a whopper plopper or something like that. If they ain't throwing that, I'm going to something else. I hate, because I want my topwater baits to be moving. Like, I'm not about damn pop and let it sit for 5 minutes and go eat a cracker and eat a sandwich and shit like that. Like, no, I want to throw. That's why I like super spooks. I want to throw it as far as I can go until I'm almost out of line, and then I start walking it back 100 miles an hour.
Fast as you can, right?
Well, I mean, to a certain extent.
Yeah.
But
it's fast to get away with anyway.
Well, yeah. I mean, I just I don't fish. I fish Nico rigs. Like, I don't want to throw a Cinco out there and let it take 30 seconds to do this down in the water. I throw that out there in my
Nico rig.
Huh?
I've never thrown a Nico rig, not one time.
I like to take that stick bait, and I use roofing nails. I do not buy fishing Nico rig nails. It's a waste of fucking money, because what happens every time you wacky rig that thing, you're going to lose it. I don't care what you do, you're going to lose it. So I use roofing nails. I've got a whole box back there.
I don't blame you.
And I let them roll around in the back of my truck. I'll take the box and I dump it out in the back of my truck, and I dump them in my kayak, especially during the post-spawn time, because they get a little bit rusty and crusty, and they stick in the I throw a lot of yum dingers. They stick in there better, and so when I'm skipping them under stuff, the nail doesn't come out as much. I ain't lying either.
It's got some texture to them. The rust.
Yeah.
So the worms got some.
Because otherwise they're beautiful galvanized shiny silver things, and the nail pops off, skipping all the time. But anyway, so I throw that damn that Nico rig out there. I want it to hit. I want it to go past that fish fast. And here, let me backtrack a little bit too. Have you ever heard of spoon plugging or buck Perry?
No, I can't say I have. Now,
okay,
you might explain it. I might have heard.
You wouldn't. So Buck Perry is the father of structure fishing, offshore fishing, bass behavior. He started this back in like the 50s. Just go do some research on him. It's phenomenal. Don Dixon, go look at Don Dixon on YouTube. Now, how they fish, spoon plugging, he made a crankbait. It's a metal crankbait, so it falls to the ground. And when you reel it, it continues contact. You don't have to reel it down. So I won't get into the specifics and how they fish, because it entails trolling in with how they fish. But when he talks about bass behavior and bass movement, to me, that's the most important part about fishing. And I think it's the most overlooked part about fishing, because people look to baits and technology. The technology helps us find the movements, but they look at colors and baits versus looking at the movement of fish, because Buck Perry always says you can't catch fish where fish ain't.
That's fair. Yeah.
So, and he says color don't damn matter. You have to have the right depth. So you got to be fishing where the fish are, and you got to have the right speed, which is either fast or slow.
Yeah.
And so that's what it comes down to, right? I mean, that's how I've tried to simplify my fishing are the bass shallow? Well, they're either shallow, deep, or somewhere in between, right?
Yeah.
So I got to figure out where they are, shallow, deep, somewhere in between. And they might be deep now, but an hour they're shallow. They don't move constantly and they don't move consistently. So the easiest things for me to control is the depth of my lure and the speed of my lure.
Yeah.
Because once you get down to 20 feet in the majority of lakes, the light penetration is so little, color don't fucking matter. All they see is a profile.
Right. There was something that I picked up, I don't know, quite a few years ago with fly fishermen. And I was trying to get into fly fishing a little bit, hated it, and was just, I was awful at it, and was trying to figure out how to get just a little better. And one of the interesting things that you see with a lot of fly fishermen, at least what I found, was they say change your lure as a last ditch effort. Because you want to change your presentation first and then change where you're fishing, and then change lures is only a last ditch effort, because you don't want to waste your leader, because it's very hard to replace leaders, and once you run out, you're done.
Right. Yeah.
And that really kind of sat with me, like, you know what, if I can get one bite on something, I'm going to throw this thing all day. And I got that was one of those things where they always mention change lure only as a last ditch effort. Change where you're at, change your depth, change how fast the bait's moving, or you mending line or whatever enough. And I never did understand all that stuff. And that was something, if it's a tough day, could I throw 5,000 lures all day in a tough tournament and, catch 5 fish? I don't know. But if I get one bite on something, I'm going to go and throw that thing as many times as possible. And if heaven help, if I get 2 bites on something, well, I'm onto something at that point, and I can just keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it, especially if the 2 bites are the same. So I'm by all means for don't change baits unless you have to. If I get a bite on something and it's tough and I know it's tough, I'm just going to keep throwing the same thing all day, and it'll be glued to my.
And I think there's a lot to say time on the water too. So the profile change. So this is the way that I break it down. First, I want to find fish. So what's the weather? What is all this? What's the time of year? Where are the fish supposed to be? That's where I'm going to start, and then go from there. But when it comes to actually fishing, I think forward size has a lot to do with bait size. But to me, it's getting the lure, it's finding the fish, getting the lure at the right depth and the right speed. With technology, we can now find fish a lot better, right? And it doesn't sound like you do a lot of offshore. I don't know what you consider offshore, but it sounds like you're up on the bank fishing cover, fishing specific points close to the bank, right?
Yeah, if I'm familiar with an area and there's pre-existing things that I can find when I get out there, if I can look at a map and go, okay, there's a green marker buoy in this creek, and beside of it's a bunch of stumps that are marked on the map, I'll go out there, and I have no problem going out there and cranking stumps and finding things. That's I keep a crankbait with me all the time, and if I don't have a crankbait with me, then I'll throw the trusty D-bomb out there, and I'll throw a 1/2 ounce tungsten weight on there, and I promise you what's on the bottom of the tungsten weight if you're dragging it around. But I'll keep some sort of crankbait, a few different crankbaits, even when it's not crankbait season. If it's in the middle of the summer and I'm fishing the backs of creeks or whatever else, I'll keep a few different depth crankbaits back there. If nothing else, I'll throw it out there just to get it hung, to figure out what I'm getting hung on. or catching fish on, or if there's something back there, I think, hey, there's some stumps back here on the map. I'll tie a crankbait on my chatterbait rod, and I'll throw a freaking crankbait out there a few times and figure out what the bottom feels like, and then I'll go do it. Because there's a lot of times I've had depth finders, and I'm like, man, this looks good. I don't know what the bottom is. I mean, it could be rock or sand or whatever else, and I would find myself just doing the same thing. And I'm like, all right, it's 8 foot deep out here. I'm gonna tie on the DT14 and sling it out there and come back, and I'm either gonna feel something and I'll know what it is, or if I don't feel much and I come back and the front of that lip of that crankbait is red, then I know it's clay. If it come back and it's got nothing on it and I can't hardly feel anything, well, there's probably sand there. And if I come back and there's grass, well, that's easy enough.
You're gonna know that one the quickest.
If I get hung and it pulls back and forth, well, guess what? There's brush down there. I think people overcomplicate things, and I think a lot of the times I can go down a bank and find more about. I mean, think about this: if I go down a bank and I'm in practice and I'm throwing topwater, I like to throw topwater when I practice because you're going to miss a lot of fish on topwater. You're going to have a decent idea what size they are. If I go down an area with a bank that looks inconspicuous and I'm throwing topwater, all of a sudden I start getting bites. I'm going to tie a crankbait on, turn around, drag a crankbait through there, figure out, hey, I mean, I already know kind of how deep it is by looking at the bank, doing my map study ahead of time. I'm going to go throw a crankbait through there, figure out either A, how big one of the fish are, B, I'm going to take the hooks off and I'm going to dig that thing down there and figure out what's going on, or C, I'm going to crank that area. I'm going to go down to where I was not getting bites and crank it again too, and see if, hey, there's boulders here, there's brush here, there's yada yada. I mean, a lot of that stuff you're going to find out even quicker without running over it with a depth finder as anything.
So on that, this goes back to kind of that Buck Perry mindset is you always start in the shallows. Always. You start shallow. Yeah. Bass fish are schooling fish. So if you have a fish, you're throwing a walking bait, boom, fish hits it, misses. Right away, you're like, well, for the most part, in general, fish are not alone. They're not loners. They school by size. Now, the bigger they get, the smaller the numbers in the school are. Yeah. So you might have 3 or 4 8 to 10 pounders schooling together. But when you get these schools of 3 to 4 or 5 pounders, they school in large schools. And anything like a 6-pound bass is a freak. They're old. They don't get there much. So like an average adult fish is 3 to 5 pounds. Mm-hmm. So you get a bite right there. Well, you just said you stop and you take that immediate area, because if there's a fish there, that means there's a movement up. So there's more fish in that area. Now, where are they? And where are they? But my always question, when I catch a fish, I'm like, where the hell, how did they get there? Like, what's this contour structure? So you're saying you stop and you just fish that area with the crankbait. Well, what you're doing is, let's say this is your spring to summertime fishing pattern, late fall fishing pattern. So fish are active. You're fishing fast, which most of the time is going to generate bites, and you're covering a lot of water, but you're covering their depth. So what are you're covering depth and speed. Everything else doesn't matter. It's depth and speed.
And a lot of times you can find you hit things like probably, it don't have to be exact, but not even necessarily a 45. You hit it like a 30-degree angle. You can kind of work it down. Mm-hmm. You're fishing, say, a lot of the times you're going to look at a bank, and if the bank is sloped like that, a lot of times it's going to go in the water and keep doing that. Mm-hmm. Now, in certain instances, you're going to pull up to somewhere and know, if you do your map study ahead of time, hey, I'm going to fish this creek today. Everything is basically doing this, and every now and then you'll get somewhere that goes like that, and that's one of the first places you'll go look at. And a lot of the times, you know what the bottom should be if you've done your contour study ahead of time.
Right.
If you look at topographical maps, and this is the same way, underwater contour is just a topographical map underwater.
Right.
If there's a lot of contour lines together, there's always going to be rock there or close by.
Mm-hmm. It has to be.
They don't make straight drops of clay underwater. It's just not possible. It's not reasonable. Now, and somebody has a smart aleck comment of, oh, well, you see straight clay banks on the bank, and it's like, yeah, it's washed out. There's lay downs and stuff like that. Everybody
that sees water twice a year.
Yeah, that sees water twice a year when the lake's flooded, and if that was all the time, all that clay would be washed out, and there's going to be just a big sloppy mess there when the water goes down. And that's, you can learn a lot about the structure of a whole area before you ever get there.
Mm-hmm.
I know where a lot of the rock in a creek is going to be sitting at work playing on my phone. And if you go to a lot of these places like Eufaula, for example, and there's no bluffs down there. Things that look like bluffs are not bluffs. I mean, it's just Eufaula is much more Florida fishing than here, even though it looks the same when you drive over it. It looks like home. It looks like East Tennessee Lake. And then you get down there and nothing's sloped like this. It's sloped like this.
Right.
It's terrible. It's not like
lowland reservoir.
Yeah, it's a 100%. It's a lowland reservoir, probably something similar to Santee if we're comparing. And
no, Santee isn't a bowl. It's not a lowland reservoir. Santee's its own little animal. It's a mixture of both. It's a mixture of both.
I've heard people say it's Texas on the upper end of that one lake, and you get down through there. It's got some magic current in places, and it is. I've heard some people say it's multiple lakes in one, but you get a lowland reservoir like that, and you see contour lines close together. Well, there's probably still not going to be rock there, but there's a chance for fish to move up and down a lot quicker.
Yeah, that's right. So all right. So what we covered. Do you need a break, or are you like ready to be done?
I'm about to have to get off here in a minute to be
okay. So all right, good. That's why I asked, because shit, I could talk like we're talking right now till tomorrow morning. So
I could too. I could too. All
right. So all right, we're gonna finish it up. Do you have 10 more minutes for me?
Yeah, that's fine. 10 more minutes.
Okay. All right. So we've talked about the colors. We talked about lure selection. We've talked about the map study at this point. So you're not running a lot of graphs. Are you fishing primarily shallow? And I consider shallow anything less than 10 foot. Or are you fishing deep? Or is there a mixture of both? Where are you spending most of that time?
Less than 10 feet, definitely. Okay. I don't like to fish.
You're a shallow angler.
Shallow as can be. Well, not shallow as can be, because there's some of those guys in Florida and stuff. They're like, oh, right. Yeah, we're fishing deep. We're fishing 4 foot today. We're fishing 4 foot ditches.
Well, that's as deep as they got there.
Yeah, that's as deep as they got. So kudos to them. I couldn't fish that way all the time, I don't think. But I like to say if my rod tip doesn't touch the water, then I don't know how deep it is. But I prefer to fish shallow. A lot of it's less than 10 feet. I'd say a majority of it is I'd say 90% of it's less than 8 feet, honestly.
And so I like to me, I'd be curious to sound like what your mid hot day summers and your winter fishing, if you're doing a lot of winter fishing, looks like, because and not so much winter fishing, but you take still tournament season for us is that June to September time frame in the southern states. If you're fishing there, you're at least here locally for us. When that sun comes up, that morning bite shuts off. And
yeah,
you have to go find a more structure. We don't have grass here either. We don't have grass, and we don't have the lakes here are not power generating lakes, so there's no current, no grass. 100% structure.
Yeah, a lot of it's capitalizing on top water, knowing where your best bet to catch a few fish first thing in the morning are going to be.
Get them early.
You get them early. That's going to be your best chance to catch active fish. Is definitely going to be first thing in the morning. Going places like way up in creeks, little random areas of grass, flats that have springs on them are always favorites of mine. And just trying to get places where there's a lot of shade. I love fishing shade pattern. I mean, that's a whole pattern to me. It's just nothing but running shade. Finding springs and finding cooler water. You know, a lot of the TVA system, you can go back in these creeks and you get a lot of shade and stuff like that. You'll get springs, you know, get a lot of water coming out of the mountain and places like that. Just trying to find cooler water.
Yeah, see, in our area, we don't have those springs. Like in the Raleigh area, those lakes aren't spring fed. We just don't have a lot of that. So it's just interesting how that summer pattern works out for y'all. All right, so we'll go ahead and wrap it up now. It's been an hour and 35 minutes, which is good, which is good for me. I'm excited. Yeah. This is a win for Bass Brews Fishing Podcast.
Yeah, all right. If I hadn't worked 12 hours today, I ain't even been home yet. I pulled the truck up and walked straight into the barn. So,
well, look, we really appreciate your time because I was excited to bring you on to talk about this type of fishing because look at the success you've had. And I mean, it's consistent, dude. You were consistently winning AOYs. That everybody wants to win, but if you're winning AOYs, that means, one, you're making money. You're in the money. Let's not say making. You're in the money the majority of the times. But, I mean, nobody plays in the NFL to win a game. They play to win games to win the Super Bowl, right?
Yeah.
So you do that. You are good enough in games to make it to the playoffs. And then you win all your playoff games and you win Super Bowls. That's how that's how I look at you. You're consistent. And when the tournaments count, you make it count. So, to hear for folks, hopefully to hear this podcast and to hear how you put that together is invaluable information. And we talked about some specific baits and all that, but in general, it's not a specific bait.
It's learning what seasonal patterns. I mean, not 9 times out of 10 when I'm sitting at work, I'm going to go, all right, well, I'm going to go here. I've never been to this lake before. If I go up here and there's no one else here in this area and I can kind of choose and pick what I want, I'm probably going to catch fish in this general area, throwing one of 2 or 3 things. And 9 times out of 10, that happens that way. Now, you hope that the size is good and you kind of work your way from there, whether you got to go deeper or shallower or whether you're just in a bad area of the lake. But a lot of it is just learning your seasonal patterns based on water temp and what everything should be before you even get there.
All right. So real quick, we got to finish up right here. We got some rapid fire questions. Okay. Rapid fire because I'm 4 minutes from losing you. Crocs or flip flops?
Crocs. I don't wear a lot of sandals.
Okay, I'm not going to chastise you for wrong answers. So pineapple on pizza, yes or no?
Absolutely not.
Yes. You spend more on a rod or a reel?
Reel for bait casters, rod for spinning.
That's a cop-out, but we can't get into it because we wasted all our time earlier, but I'll accept that answer. When you go fishing, you want to catch 5 2-pounders or 1 7-pounder?
5 2-pounders.
Whoa, man, we need to dive into that next time. Wacky rig or Texas rig?
Texas rig.
Slow jams or hype music?
Hype music.
Are you eating largemouth bass?
I've eaten quite a few.
My man, thank you. People, it's a good ass eating fish. People they dumb. They stupid. It's delicious.
I've eaten my fair share of them.
Where I grew up, we either ate brim, largemouth bass, or turtles. That's all we caught where I grew up. All right. This right here is the most important question I've asked you all night because this ends careers or it makes your career take off.
All right.
what are your top 3 sandwich proteins?
Turkey. I like there's like I'm just say turkey, ham. There's like some pastrami. I like pastrami.
Okay, sweet. That, you know what? Those are good, safe answers. Shit, we done.
I think my lights just turned.
Oh shit! Either he paid a power bill or he's got to stand up and wave his arm.
We have to wrap this one up, dog. We got to wrap this one up.
All right, buddy. Jordan, thank you, dude. I appreciate it. The lights went out. We're going to end this right now. Thank you. We'll holler at you. Y'all have a good night. Thanks for attending. We'll see you, buddy.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
All right, bye.